Hey, what's up guys? So we're here to go over the best build for Monk in Season 19 for Diablo 3 using the new set Patterns of Justice, which essentially is a build for Tempest Rush, but with the sweeping wind bonus of the additional movement speed as well as the energy management. So it's basically similar to the Sun Wukong build that is very popular right now. However, it's a lot easier to run. The Sun Wukong build is a little bit more difficult due to energy resource management. However, the Sun Wukong build can technically push higher in the Greater Rift department by 10. The Patterns of Justice will be a little bit faster due to getting up to 65% bonus movement speed with the 2-piece bonus and with Vengeful Wind. But basically what it comes down to is a Tempest Rush build with multipliers with the Wokim Lao. This is actually something that has been new, and I wanted to give you guys an update to this because my previous video, they did not have Wokim Lao with the new buff. So this is actually something that goes up to 600% bonus Tempest Rush damage, and this is going to automatically proc your Cyclone Strike, and that's going to give you free extra damage to proc your Caesar's Memento, which is going to make it so they take additional damage when they are hit with Tempest Rush after you hit them with a Blind Freeze or Stun. So let's go ahead and hop into some gameplay. I'll explain a bunch of different options that you guys can go ahead and swap in and out. Like I had mentioned before, the Sun Wukong build is basically the same. It's really just comes down to a Tempest Rush build, but it's a little bit more difficult to run the Sun Wukong build because of, again, the resource management. But we'll talk about a little bit more about theory crafting and all that good stuff in a moment. Let's go ahead and showcase off how the build works. So what you want to do is activate Sweeping Wind, get those 13 stacks just so you can move around the map very fast, and then just hold down Tempest Rush and watch everything melt. We're using Blinding Flash to actually blind the enemies to proc our Caesar's Memento and also give ourselves an additional 29% damage. So let's go ahead and show off how it works. So just activate your Epiphany, and then when you see elites, just go ahead and pop your Blinding Flash. Really easy. You should be one-shotting pretty much everything. It's a very easy build. We don't even have ancient weapons, and we're just mowing through everything. Again, it's a very easy build to actually play. The only thing that you really need to manage is make sure you don't have Sweeping Wind drop. The reason why is because you'll lose out on your movement speed, and obviously that's bad. But once you see an elite, you activate your Blinding Flash, and then you're going to get a bunch of bonus damage. Because with the trash mobs, you should be able to roll through them with ease. And it's a pretty fun build. It almost reminds me of like a Whirlwind Barb, but you're playing a Monk, and it does bring in all the enemies. Like I said, once you see elite, pop Blinding Flash and watch them melt very, very fast. You can see that I didn't even notice that was an elite over there, but things melt very fast with this build. Very friendly and easy to play. Again, if you run into situations where there is like an elite and they might be a little bit difficult, you can actually proc your Mantra of Salvation. That'll give you some extra damage mitigation. But yeah, pretty simple and straightforward. Just hold down whatever button it is for your Tempest Rush, and make sure you keep up Epiphany, although this is a T16, so it's relatively forgiving here with the damage. Although we have the Succubuses over here, which can actually do a lot of damage. But now that you guys have seen the gameplay and a brief little explanation, let's go ahead and go in depth, and we'll go ahead and explain the skills, the passives, the gems, and what we're looking for in the cube. So as far as the build goes, let's go ahead and go over the skills real quick. So there is technically one slot that can be optional. So right now I'm running Cyclone Strike Wall of Wind. Alternatively, you can run Cyclone Strike Soothing Breeze. These are both considered the ones that majority of people will be using. If you're doing higher Greater Rift pushes, I will recommend Cyclone Strike Soothing Breeze. This is just going to heal you up. But I'm running Wall of Wind because it can freeze enemies, and that's going to actually proc our Caesar's Memento, which is going to give us that extra bonus damage. But alternatively, instead of Cyclone Strike, you can run Mystic Ally if you want. You can run Serenity. Those are all great other options. Now, for the Blinding Flash, we're going to be running Faith in the Light. Let's go ahead and actually move away from them so they don't talk. But Blinding Flash over here is going to give us that extra blind, and that's going to let us do a bunch of bonus damage to those elites. That's basically when we're activating. Although if you're doing Greater Rift pushes, you can keep this up as much as you can, as long as you meet the cooldown thresholds to keep up Epiphany Desert Shroud, which is going to give us 50% damage reduction. Then with Tempest Rush, we're going to be using Flurry. This is going to actually stack up. So when I'm activating Tempest Rush and holding it down, you'll see that these stacks are going to be building up, and then when I stop, it releases the stacks. However, I do want to mention, don't actually stop to release the stacks. The stacks will just kind of proc on their own, so keep using Tempest Rush, because if you stop using Tempest Rush, you're going to be taking more damage, because with the 4-piece bonus of the Patterns of Justice, you're going to be actually gaining 50% damage reduction when you are attacking with Tempest Rush. So don't drop Tempest Rush just to activate your Flurry. It'll activate it on its own. I'm not sure actually what causes it. You can run into objects and it'll still actually continue. It will just activate on its own again. Just don't worry about that at all. But we're also running, so it's basically the cold rune on it. Then we're running Sweeping Wind. It doesn't matter which one you choose. I wanted to mention Sweeping Wind Cyclone specifically because of Zystone. However, you get the effect of all of them with the bonus of the set over here with the 2-piece bonus. Sweeping Wind gains the effect of every rune. It doesn't really matter which one you are running because you're going to get the effect of all of them anyways. It's just whatever color that you kind of prefer. Again, you're not dealing damage with this thing anyways because all of your damage is coming actually from Tempest Rush, so don't worry too much about that. And then for our mantra, we're running Mantra of Salvation Agility. This gives us a chance to dodge. And then if you do want to activate it, you guys can actually increase your damage mitigation by 20% to have increased resistance to everything for 3 seconds. You can basically spam on it because this build is really friendly with the spirit generation. For the passive skills, we're running Harmony, Seize the Initiative, Momentum, and Guardian's Path. Other things that you guys can actually run in the Hellfire Amulet department, or you guys can swap any of these. So if we're talking about min-max for speed, because I will give you guys a speed build, if you have enough damage mitigation, fleet-footed technically gives you extra movement speed, and this does beat the threshold of 25%, which is like the flat base movement speed that you're getting with like your Paragon. It can increase it to 35%. Resolve can also be another option here, and then another option can be Relentless Assault because you're going to be freezing them anyways to deal the damage. You'll get an additional 20%. Beacon of Yitar, if you don't meet the cooldown thresholds, that can be another option as well. And then I've seen some people also use Near Death Experience, but currently these are the ones that I'm running, so we're going to have extra damage mitigation with Harmony. Seize Initiative gives us basically 30% attack speed, and then with Momentum, you're always going to deal that 20% damage. I've seen some people not run Momentum and instead they run Relentless. I would always recommend to run Momentum first over Relentless. The reason why is because you're going to be using Tempest Rush. It doesn't actually require you to move a set distance away from your current location. So if I was to do this, this still will actually proc your effect of Momentum. It doesn't need to, if you're going in a perfect circle, it probably won't be enough movement here, but what I'm trying to say is that you don't need to move farther than what's intended in like a small circle, if that makes sense, increasing it by 25 yards in like a certain specific direction. Like if there's a boss, you can basically circle around it and you'll still proc this, especially on like the boss. Like if you're at the very end of the boss, you'll still be able to proc it. So don't worry about like moving like side to side with Momentum. But yeah, that's it for the passives as well as the skills. And as far as what's inside our cube as well as the gems. So balance is 100%. It's a must. The damage of Tempest Rush is going to be increased by 600%. And when it hits 3 or fewer enemies, you're going to deal 100% crit chance. So basically, it's excellent against the Rift Guardian. And then Mantle of Channeling is going to give us 25% increased damage and reduce our damage taken by 25%. Alternatively, the Hexing Pants of Mr. Yan can actually give you more damage, even though they both say 25% increased damage. This is actually better as far as the multiplier goes, so if you really want to min-max in damage and you already meet the damage reduction thresholds, Hexing Pants can be another option. And then your Royal Ring of Grandeur, because we're running 2 different sets in here. So let me go ahead and move away from the followers so they don't talk. And then what we're running as far as our items go, gems, important thing, I want to go over that first. So I'm running the Go-Go Swiftness just so it can meet cooldown thresholds, and also technically gives us extra attack speed, which actually can proc our effect of the Cyclone Strike much more often. But the important gems are going to be Bane of the Trapped and Taeguk if you are not doing Greater Rifts. If you're just doing speed, you can run this or run whatever other gem you want. However, if you're doing Greater Rifts, you definitely want to go ahead and throw in Bane of the Stricken. Now, as far as what we want on our gear, important bonus damage on Tempest Rush is going to be on our helm as well as on our boots. Don't get the bonus damage on Sweeping Wind in your shoulders or your chest because, again, your damage actually comes from Tempest Rush. So what we're looking for pretty much on every single piece of gear is crit chance, crit damage, as well as cooldown reduction where we can get it, which would be on our shoulders and on our gloves and on our rings. And sometimes on the amulet, depending on what amulet you're going for, which I would recommend if you're doing Greater Rift pushings. Filler of Time is hands down the best amulet in the game. But a mouse over each piece of gear, but again, you're just really looking for Tempest Rush on your helm as well as your boots, then crit chance, crit damage, cooldown reduction. As far as the amulet, I'm running Hellfire, but you can actually run a few different things. Caesar Memento, again, is going to be like the best in slot for that. Some people are cubing it and they're running other things, and I'll get into that in a moment. But as far as rings go, we want a Convention of Elements, Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac. You can alternatively run Unity, or you can run the Endless Walk set, which is Compass Rose and the Traveler's Pledge, if you want to. And then we're running the Captain's set as well. You can also alternatively run the Captain's Boots and run the Patterns of Justice legs. But pretty much same stats on like every single thing. There's nothing like I would say special. Now, I do want to mention something. If you are running the Patterns of Justice set, you can actually drop Vengeful Wind. It'll actually make you move slower, but it does open up the slot for potential theory crafting if you want to run like Yugioh, if you really want to go fast with, let's say, like Dashing Strike, and you're just doing T16 speeds. This damage that you're getting with Sweeping Wind, it doesn't matter at all. Your damage comes from Tempest Rush anyways. In lower, like, let's say, like, or even in the beginnings, that Sweeping Wind damage can be okay. But for the most part, Tempest Rush is where you're getting your damage anyways. Wokim Lao is a must, though, because that's going to give you an extra multiplier on your Tempest Rush. And it'll also activate Cyclone Strike, which is how I'm proccing the effect of Caesar's Memento. But again, you can not run this if you don't want to. It just makes it easier for the Lacy build. So as far as the Samuko build, there's a lot of different things you guys can swap in and out. But because you don't get that 50 Spirit regen, you actually have to run a Royal Topaz in your helm, so you can actually continuously sweeping wind with the Tempest Rush up 100% of the time. Some people are actually using the Laws of Seth because you're going to be activating Blinding Flash over and over, and that basically gives you 50% of your spirit instantly. But it's the exact same thing. It's just your sweeping wind. Where is it? Where your damage is reduced by 50% when you have sweeping wind instead of when you're doing Tempest Rush. It's basically the same thing. And then every time you're using Sweeping Wind, you're going to be summoning a Decoy Totem and do more damage. And then you're going to gain 1500% bonus for each stack of Sweeping Wind that you have. But it's basically the same gameplay, so I'm not going to go ahead and equip all that. But I do want to mention some theory crafting as well as other things that you guys can swap in and out. So Frostburns can be a viable option because you're going to have your cold damage, which you're doing, have up to a 45% chance to actually freeze enemies, which is essentially how you're going to be getting your bonus of Caesar's Memento, which essentially is how you get a lot of your damage, especially when you're pushing the higher greater rifts. You can cube it, you can go ahead and equip it. Again, do whatever you want to do with this. And I'm just mentioning some other things. You can also run Stone Gauntlets. That's another option for more damage mitigation. You can go ahead and run the Free Brace. This is going to give you up to 50% damage reduction instead of, let's say, the Mantle of Channeling, which gives you 25% increased damage, and you take 25% less, just in case you need to reach certain damage reduction thresholds. This can also be another option. If we're talking about speed, Nemesis is always going to be the best bracers. You'll lose out on that bonus damage, but once you meet a certain damage threshold, if we're just talking about speed, this is going to be an option here. Speaking of speed, if you want to, you can actually drop Epiphany if you're just doing T16 speedruns. You can actually drop this, or Blinding Flash, whatever you want to actually swap in and out. Run Dashing Strike, and I usually recommend the Quicksilver rune. This is only because if you're doing T16 just speed pushings, what you actually want to do is be able to cross gaps. I mentioned this in every single video though, but that's essentially what's going to slow you down on a lot of different times when you're just doing speed T16s. But next up, another thing I did want to mention that's kind of a bait here. Kyoshiro Soul is something that did technically get changed here. It makes it so Sweeping Wind has a bonus of up to, 125% bonus damage. However, you don't get your damage by Sweeping Wind, and this multiplier isn't enough to make it viable to make like a Sweeping Wind damage build. Although if you are playing T16, I did kind of want to at least mention it here, but pretty much it's not going to be anything that you're going to be looking forward to. It's a bait item. Other things, Compass Rose, I already mentioned this. You can run Unity, you can run the Flavor of Time, which is really good for greater rift pushings. It's a little bit of RNG, but if you really want to min-max, this is definitely the best amulet. And then I have seen a few people do Squirt's Necklace because you have chance to dodge. You can squeeze out a little bit more bonus damage with this, but I would overall say it's too squishy. I can't really recommend it, especially for players that are interested in more of an easy build. For theory crafting, I did want to mention Zystone. If you really want like the ultimate lazy build, which, you know, I like lazy builds too. Sometimes I just don't want to push buttons. I want to tune out, just grind some paragons while, like, you know, doing something else. So you don't even have to activate your blinding flash. You can throw Zystone, you can throw in your Frostburns, and then as well as keep on the Cyclone Strike Wall of Wind, and that's just going to be proccing your Caesar's Memento a little bit more frequently. Zystone, though, as you get higher in the game as far as like the difficulty, monsters have a different set of thresholds, so it won't proc like multiple times on the same enemy. However, just proccing it once just procs this effect, and then you one-shot the enemy anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. But if you are doing Greater Rifts, Bane of the Stricken 100% will be the best. The ones that I would say are 100% required, Taeguk and Bane of the Stricken for GRs. I've seen people not run Bane of the Trapped, and some are playing with the Esoteric just for extra damage mitigation. But anyways, yeah, guys, that is indeed the build for Monk in Season 19 that a lot of people will be interested in running. If you're interested in running the Patterns of Justice set, this is the way I recommend you guys to do it. If you guys have any suggestions down below in the comment section below for theory crafting or other things that I might have missed out on, definitely let me know. But like I said before, I do want to mention that Sun Wukong set is a little bit stronger, but it's harder to play. And again, because this is the new set, I figure most people want to go ahead and have the best build for the new set, because that's, of course, new content. People want to see the new content. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you did, drop a like on it. And if you are new here and you want to see more games, hit the subscribe button, turn on that bell, and you'll definitely see more. And I will be also streaming Season 19, and I do want to mention, if you guys are interested in Crusader or Barbarian, I already have videos on both of those, and I'll pin them down below. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a good one, and I'm signing out. Peace.